How's it going? Welcome to this week's Q&A. So like any other week, if you want a chance at one question being featured in a future video just like this one, make sure you drop a comment down below with your question and I'll try to get to each and every single one of those questions. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started with the first question of the weekend. What should be the Honda 10AT service interval? So personally, I like to do them every 30,000 miles in most cases. So if you are just driving a car normally, you're not abusing it, you're not in severe heavy on and off traffic. So if all you do is city driving, then maybe you want to do it a little bit sooner. But in most cases, I think 30K should suffice. If you do tons of highway driving, maybe you could push it to 45 or 60K. So just kind of be honest with yourself, see kind of what scenario fits for you and go from there. I would not push it past 60,000 miles. The fluid's not too expensive. They are a little bit tricky to do. I have a service video on a TLX Type S, which is probably the most hard one to do. So all the other ones should be a little bit easier. And there's actually a cheat on some of them. So if I get a chance to do one on a 10-speed Accord or something like that, I'll have the video for that. And an Odyssey and RDX, they're all kind of the same type of situation and procedure. The TLX Type S is kind of unique because you can't cheat. And by cheat, I mean take out the breather vent from the top and do it that way because just the way the turbo is designed over the manifold. Now, if your car is modified and if you're abusing it, in that case, I would probably stick to 15,000 miles to 20,000 miles intervals. If it's modified and you have more power, then absolutely 15 to 20,000 miles at most. And I would be changing that transmission filter every 30,000 miles at most. And for normal conditions, from 30 to 60,000 miles for that trans filter should suffice. Now, these transmissions do have a filter. I know a lot of people out there saying that they don't, but they do behind the transformer / cooler, whatever you want to call it. But there is one. I'm actually going to be doing one on my TLX Type S. So I should have the video within a couple weeks to a month max. So make sure you stay tuned for that because once again, I will be doing this video because a lot of people out there are saying that they don't have a filter and they do. And the filters are all the same. Some of the O-rings are different part numbers, but the filters are the same part number for all of them. So hopefully that answers the question for you. All right, so the next question is that the vehicle is braking by itself. So if you're not aware, Honda is investigating some of these vehicles for braking by themselves, sometimes with no object in any way, shape, or form in front of the vehicle. Now, I personally have not seen any of those situations. There is a different situation, which I'm going to talk about in a second. Most times when people come in saying that the car is decelerating by itself, it's usually from a broken taillight, and it usually happens on a 10th generation Accords. Now, again, Honda is investigating. I believe the CR-Vs, Accords, and the Civics, if I'm not mistaken, maybe some on the Acura side as well. Once they come to the conclusion of what's going on, then there's probably going to be a safety recall, probably a stop sale, because obviously if the car is braking by itself on a highway, that could be dangerous in many, many ways and puts a lot of people in an uncomfortable situation. So on certain situations, both my 19 Pilot and my 21 TLX will display the brake warning message on the cluster. And I'll have a video of that right now.
Happens almost every day.
As you can see, this usually happens when the road has like a bend, a sharper bend coming, and there is a vehicle or another car coming in the opposite direction. And the car is simply saying, well, hey, there's something in front of you. It doesn't know that you are about to turn before you get to that. So it's going to alert you that, you know, you should be hitting the brakes or whatnot. Now, if you're driving at a unreasonable speed, so more than you should be, it might hit the brakes for you. And don't be alarmed if it does. Now, you could set those adjustments and kind of change how aggressive you want the system to be under your settings for the Honda Assist and the Acura Assist. So just go in there. And if you are an aggressive driving person and you like to tailgate, maybe you want to disable the system completely although I advise against it because it saved me a couple times already. So just kind of play with the systems. Again, these cars are being investigated for this issue, so just stay, vigilant out there until a fix is available if it is occurring for you. So hopefully it answers the question for you. All right, so the next question is, there has been a huge drastic mile per gallon decrease. What are some of the situations that could be happening? Now, a lot of people just like to look at the average displayed on the odometer. So a lot of things could factor that. If you happen to be remote starting the car now and previously you weren't, that could definitely contribute to a lower mile per gallon reading. Also, if you're all of a sudden spending a lot of time idling in a vehicle, it's counting as it's burning gas, right? Even though you're not driving a vehicle, it's still counting. So it's gonna decrease your average miles per gallon. So now some mechanical issues that could be causing this are some worn out tires, possibly underinflated tires for sure will drastically change your mile per gallon average. If all of a sudden you're commuting to work, but you're taking a couple buddies with you, that weight of your friends or coworkers are gonna, contribute to that decrease in miles per gallon. So not that that's a mechanical failure, but that could be adding to the situation. Now, a sticking caliper or calipers that are dragging, calipers that are completely seized, most definitely will also cause a situation of this sort. So if you suspect something like that is happening and a caliper is staying stuck though, that's going to apply pressure and going to make the engine work harder. So especially on older vehicles, maybe 5-6 years old, start paying attention to the caliper pins. Every time you do your brake job or have your brake job done, make sure the caliper pins are sliding as they should, the boots aren't torn, and your calipers go in nice and smoothly. If your pistons aren't retracting the way they're supposed to be, then they're going to apply pressure, once again reducing your miles per gallon. Also, I see a lot of times people doing brakes outside or even sometimes at the dealer, and they twist the caliper in a way that the hose is twisted. All of a sudden you apply brake pressure, but it won't relieve the brake pressure, again causing the caliper to apply brake pressure to the rotors and decreasing your miles per gallon. So I hope it answers the question for you. All right, so the next question is, should you have your dealer install aftermarket parts? So there's a couple people out there saying that their dealer will install the parts and they'll honor a warranty or anything of that nature. I think that gets tricky because if the part itself fails, so that's not the dealer's responsibility, right? So if you buy an intercooler and it happens to crack at a weld or whatnot, let's just use that as an example, then the dealer isn't responsible for that because the aftermarket part failed. So if they go and replace it again, then they're going to charge you labor once again. Now, if you take it to an aftermarket shop, the same principle will apply because chances are they didn't make that part. So it does get tricky. Now, if a dealer does install some parts and there happens to be a warranty scenario, maybe they'll feel more obligated to comply with the situation. Maybe not. That's going to be a dealer on dealer, dealer by dealer, and case by case situation. So have the conversation with the dealer. If they're comfortable with installing these parts, usually just bolt-ons. They're not going to do turbo swaps and stuff like that. But I don't see why they wouldn't do lowering springs. And maybe they'll say, hey, man, this is going to void your warranty. But if you want to go ahead and do it, then we have no problem installing them. And, just as long as everything is in black and white, make sure there's, some sort of contract between you and the dealership. It's possible they may do it. Maybe they won't. Again, case by case situation here. And they're probably going to be limited to a couple of bolt-ons and nothing really drastic like turbochargers, changing injectors. Definitely not flashing ECUs at a dealership. I would highly advise against that for multiple reasons. So with that being said, hopefully that answers the question for you. Last but not least, question of the week. And once again, if you want a chance of one of your questions being answered, make sure you drop a question down below in the comment section, and I'll try to get to each and every question. So simply, my Honda, my Acura AC simply isn't cutting it. So Hondas and Acuras do not have the best AC systems out there. I'll be the first one to admit that. I had a Silverado for a couple years. I leased it. I was doing some construction at home, a lot of DIY stuff myself. So I leased a Silverado and the AC on that was phenomenal. Now, in comparison to my Pilot, my TLX, and basically anything newer Honda, it just doesn't seem to cool enough. You have to really go on a long trip for it to really take into action and start really just cooling off efficiently to where you have to actually lower down the AC. Now, maybe this is an issue for everyone. I know my TLX Type S, if I get on it, tons of heat comes through the firewall and it just heats up that cabin. It's great in the winter. In the summer, not so much because you want to cool off the cabin, not heat it up. So, couple of tips I like to do personally, especially on hot summer days, 90, 100, 105 plus, whatever the case may be. If you live in a hot scenario, in a hot city, hot environment, what I like to do is turn on a vehicle, remote start it. If you could, again, this is going to decrease your miles per gallon, but you don't care, right? You're trying to be cool at this point, especially on a 100-degree day. Last thing on your mind is your average miles per gallon. So remote start your car, so like that, the cabin kind of starts cooling off before you even get in the vehicle. Once you get into the vehicle, full blast, feet and towards the face, roll all your windows down, and for a couple blocks, let all that hot air escape from the inside the cabin, right? The quicker you can get that hot air out, the quicker you can fill it in with some cooler air. After a couple blocks, roll up your windows and just hope for the best from there. You know, it will take a while to cool off these vents and everything. Everything has just been baking in the sun for a couple hours. It's not going to be cold immediately. And again, keep in mind that most of these cars that I've seen from Honda and Acura definitely do have subpar AC systems, although we can't fix anything like that. All we can do is try to manage, the heat out as best as possible and try to keep cool as possible. Now, I do love the vented seats on my TLX Type S. I don't have that on my Pilot, even though I kind of wanted it. It wasn't the trim we were looking to get. So at the time, wasn't available for our trim. So it is what it is, but it definitely makes a huge difference in trying to keep cool. That fresh air coming from your back and your lower side definitely helps a ton in my personal opinion. Something I have on the TLX and not on the Pilot. Plus the Pilot has a lot more cargo room, so a lot more passenger room, takes a lot more air to fill that room. So hopefully that answers the question for you, and I'll catch everyone on the next one.